Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Darren Kanthal, the founder and executive coach at the Canthal Group, a boutique leadership development firm helping mission-driven leaders and organizations elevate their people strategy through executive coaching, team development, and HR consulting. With over 20 years of experience in leadership development, HR, and career coaching, Darren brings deep insights into what it takes to build, align, and lead effective teams. Darren, welcome to Founders Future.
Man, who wrote that bio? That was pretty good.
It's all on you, man. You're the one that did it. But I am excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So take us on a little trip down memory lane to before you started the Canthal Group. What were you doing at the time? And then what was really the motivation behind starting the company?
Man, that is always the story, isn't it? So I'm a born and raised New Yorker, which is important for the story because as any self-respecting New Yorker, I have opinions. I
Yep,
share them. A lot of times I share them without being asked.
there you go.
And there's certainly been a time or 12 where I've shared them without much discretion, which really was my Achilles heel throughout corporate America. I grew up in corporate America in human resources, spent a lot of time in talent acquisition, which is recruiting. I moved into a regional HR manager job, which HR business partner, which is the popular title today. But really throughout my corporate career, I was not cooperative. I had an arrogance to me. I was brash. At times I was uncooperative and even unkind. And it took me a long time to realize that those were all masks for a deep insecurity I had, which I didn't know at the time. So it's a long-winded way to tell you the story of I had this tinkered HR past. My
Yeah.
longest tenure job was 3 years. I worked a lot of contract gigs, which was really great for me because they were short term. I was paid a little bit better than an annual salary, and I was in and out.
Mm.
And so that was my early career. In 2008, I got let go from a job I didn't want to get let go from. And I literally called my mommy and I cried because I was so upset as a 30-something-year-old man. And it was the first time that I stopped pointing the finger at you, Ammar, and saying, you're the problem. You've done this to me. Your leadership is wrong. And it's the first time I was like, oh my God, I am the central piece in my story, as you are in yours and everybody is in theirs. But it wasn't until I called my mom and cried that I realized that. So I started reading books on corporate politics. They do the before and after example. And as I read the example in the book, I cringed with embarrassment. Who does that? And in real life, I was doing that.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that I was the before example, right? To speed up the story a little bit, after I cried to my mom and I read some books and did some things, I figured myself out, learned about this insecurity, realized please and thank you go a long way, realized I can disagree with people without having to beat them up. The way I always say it is, and Ammar, I like your t-shirt, but I say, I can tell you I don't like your shirt, but I don't have to beat you up to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
And I didn't know that earlier in my career.
yeah.
So once I figured myself out, life got better. Like work was better, life was better. I wasn't so angry, which is my default emotion. And my very last corporate gig, I had one of the greatest bosses of all time, who's still a friend of mine today. She exited, in came new leadership, whom was the worst leader of my entire career. My old behaviors came back out. And so I hired a coach and said to my coach, hey, Chrissy, I need to figure out how to play better in these corporate sandboxes. And she said, maybe you should change the sandbox. So it was
Mm.
like a mind blown. And that was about 3 months of time of getting my affairs in order, figuring out what I was going to do, negotiated my severance. And once I left corporate America and became a coach, I love what I do. I'm in a good spot, man.
That's awesome, man. I love that so much. And I love the point that to use my own words, where you took personal responsibility and accountability for everything in your life. And I think
100%.
every entrepreneur goes through that, where you have to point the finger internally and realize, okay, I everything that's good in my life, I'll take responsibility for. Everything that's bad in my life, I'll take responsibility for. And the beautiful thing that does is it gives you power instead of relinquishing your power to other people. I'm super curious before we dive into the Canthal Group today. What was that transitionary moment like between negotiating the severance, 3 month period? Because I'm sure, or I'm not sure, I'm assuming there was some limiting beliefs or some mental blockages. It's not a difficult transition to make. So what gave you the power to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave what I already know, what I know I can be good in, to try this new thing?
All right, multifaceted answer. The first is someone recently asked me what plan B was, and I didn't have a good answer for them. Right after I got asked that question, I saw someone, plan B is making sure plan A works, which is so dumb, but so great in the same token. So the reason I share it is because once I made the decision to be an entrepreneur, that was it, man. That was the plan.
Got it.
And then I was driven by a statement of, quote unquote, I aspire to never write my own resume again. That came to me super quick. Now, here I am 7 years on, and I still have not written my own resume, which means I haven't had to look for a job, which is the whole point. Limiting belief, man, the craziest, scariest, most unknown thing was how difficult it was to sell yourself,
Mm,
right? Like my last job, I won't use that. I worked at Charles Schwab. It was my
yeah,
second to last corporate gig. Now, anytime I showed up anywhere and someone said, what do you do? I work for Charles Schwab. It was easy, right?
yeah,
There's name recognition. I worked in HR. I did some recruiting. If you weren't interested in working for Charles Schwab, okay, you didn't just reject me, you rejected Schwab. Fine.
yeah,
When you're an entrepreneur, you represent you.
yeah,
And if you choose not to work with me, you've rejected me.
yeah,
Right. And I know it wasn't personal. And if you did reject me, it wasn't because of me per se, even though it is. But that was the hardest thing, is getting over putting out LinkedIn posts, but talking about what I do because it's me, and
yeah,
putting out videos talking about me. Would you coach with me? Can I be your, whatever it is? It's almost like dating.
yeah.
But man, getting over that hump and getting at least comfortable with the discomfort of selling yourself was the
Mm.
biggest lesson at the very front end.
Yeah, I love that so much because it's good to talk that about that for people to realize that they're not the only ones going through this. Other people have had these thoughts, and it's okay. Push through regardless. Let's fast forward to give the listeners more context into your company today. Who would you say is your ideal customer? Who do you love to work with? And then from there, what are the different offers and services that you provide?
We currently coach executives at portfolio companies,
Hmm.
which are PE backed firms.
Okay.
We're primarily coaching the C suite. We also coach senior leaders. And in some instances, when it's a right fit, it could be mid level leaders as well.
Got it.
Now, in our bio, which you read so nicely, thank you, we talked a lot about team performance, team dynamics. In many instances, we coach one person on a team, whether
Okay.
it's the CEO, COO, CFO, fill in the blank, right? They're the head of the snake, not in a negative way. They are the tip of the spear. They're the top of the food chain. And we talk about this cascading leadership. As leaders improve, refine, evolve their behaviors, what they do, how they do it, what they say, how they say it, they cascades down. It's almost like the way children watch their parents or other adults and then mimic that behavior.
Yeah.
In the best laid plans, we coach the team, in which case the whole team is learning common vernacular, approach, theory, concept, etc. As a quick little sidebar, I'm just going to make a connection as a podcast host that you are, me as a coach. There are millions of other coaches and millions of other podcast hosts. Your training, my training, whether it's on the job or classroom, everyone before you and after you theoretically gets the same level of training. But it's how you apply your trade. It's how I apply my trade.
Hmm.
That's what makes me unique, and that's what makes you unique. Where am I going with this? If we're coaching the whole team, part of my methodology is speaking up, saying the uncomfortable thing. If something feels weird, say it. If
Yeah.
something doesn't make sense, say, this doesn't make sense. I'm
100%.
confused. Can you explain that to me? Hey, I might sound like an idiot, but will you explain what a portco means, which stands for portfolio company? Long-winded way to say is, too often we don't all march to the same drummer. And it doesn't
Mm.
mean we all agree or we all get along to get along. It means if we're all moving to speak up, ask the next question, talk about how we're doing, i.e., how we're feeling. If the whole team is doing that, it really is like this high tide rises all boats, as opposed to just one person. So you asked about packages. Sometimes we coach just the executive or the leader of the team. Sometimes we coach the whole team. To a lesser extent, sometimes we're front of the room trainer people type facilitators. There's a whole bunch of assessments we use too to help to understand the self and then understand the dynamic of the whole team.
Powerful. What does a typical client engagement look like? So when you're coming in and working with these companies, working with these leaders, these teams, is it like 3 months, 6 months, longer, shorter? What does that look like?
For us, we started a 6-month engagement.
Okay.
And then depending on a number of factors, the typical coaching engagement is meeting twice per month for that period of 6 months. We're available to our clients as needed. So a lot of times our clients reach out in between meetings with, hey, I have to have this conversation with someone. I'm not sure how to proceed, or I'm emotionally charged right now and I'm having a hard time seeing objectively. Or the way I always say it is, if you're spinning on a thought or you're stuck on a thought, and I'm the guy that will help you get unstuck or unspun, reach out.
Yeah,
So that availability in between meetings to me is really important. My coaches have done it for me and I do it for our clients. So that's a big part of what we do as well.
I appreciate you breaking that down. And yeah, I think with stuff like this, 3 to 6 months is the absolute minimum for them to actually see true impact that can be felt and measured in the organization.
Can I
Now,
comment on that real quick before you ask your next question?
go for it.
A lot of people ask me about success or measures of success, metrics, KPIs, etc. What I always tell people is you live in your brain. You, Ammar, me, Darren, everybody listening, we live in our brain. At the end of the day, we know when we make change. We know when we're half-assing things. We know when we've gone the extra mile. We know the things that we've done that no one will ever see. Like, we know.
Yeah,
When we start making those changes and we see improvement in ourselves, we know it's happened. What often happens is, unless we tell the outside world, like, hey, Ammar, I'm working on not cursing. Will you keep an eye out for me, even though I just cursed? By telling you and putting you on notice, you can watch me and tell me how much I'm cursing, which will accelerate you seeing my growth. All too often, I'm growing or trying to improve, but I never tell you.
yeah,
And so I know I've made the changes. And what I've seen is usually takes the outside world 3 to 6 months to catch up.
yeah.
So when you talked about 3 to 6 months as the optimal time, yes, it is. And it's not just arbitrary. It's because that's often how long it takes to actually start to see the movement.
100%. And to instill a new habit. Yeah, I love that. Let's shift to the back end of the business a little bit. When it comes to acquiring more customers and bringing in more leads to your firm specifically, what does that currently look like?
Isn't that the rubber hitting the road? So after getting over selling yourself, it's the selling that I think is the second hardest part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
We have a pretty multifaceted approach, all of which works, I would say, moderately well.
Okay.
Meaning we have a successful business. Have we reached the levels of revenue and impact that we aspire towards? No, we have not, but we're getting there. Our strategies include SEO.
Okay.
So we believe in having effective messaging, speaking to the pain points of our clients, utilizing SEO from the keywords and jargon that's effective for our clients and our company. So SEO is part of our strategy. That's more inbound, right? Two is we're active on LinkedIn, and that's multifaceted. We post, we do a LinkedIn Live, my partner and I, that's the we. So we do a LinkedIn Live, we do outreach, and
Like
then say again?
Sales Navigator on
Yes.
LinkedIn. Okay, got it.
So my partner Rachel uses Sales Navigator. I'm a little slower on the uptake, so I'm doing it the old-fashioned way.
Fair.
One of the things that we do is as people engage with our content, we engage back. And in the best laid plans, the engagement is based upon a likability, which maybe leads to knowing each other, which maybe leads to trust. So we
Yeah.
lean into the know trust. So LinkedIn is a big ecosystem for us, using Sales Navigator, having whatever the lists are of our ideal clients, all that stuff we mentioned. We have a newsletter. Sometimes our LinkedIn Live drives the newsletter content. Sometimes we put out blogs and a variety of other things. So we're staying hopefully front of mind there. To be completely honest with you, With our clientele, we haven't quite figured out a good lead magnet. So I would say like new folks coming to our email list is a little onesie twosie,
Yep.
farther and fewer between. But I know for some businesses that lead magnets are highly effective to drive quantity. Has not been so effective for us. To a very little degree, cold outreach other than LinkedIn and email. And both my partner Rachel and I were part of some networking groups in Denver where we're based. And that really leans into the once people know us, does that lead to the trust and referrals?
Yeah, that's powerful. I'm curious, you mentioned it's working moderately well. Why do you feel like it's not where you want it to be?
All right, maybe the third thing for entrepreneurs is forecastable revenue. When you're an employee of a company, you can forecast what your salary is going to be every 2 weeks or once a month or whenever you're paid, right? For us, we have some very high months and really some rather bleak months.
Mm,
So when I say the reason I say it's moderately well is we've not quite cracked the shell on which avenues, because I think it is plural,
mhm.
and what levers do we have to pull to get consistent leads that we
Mm.
can then start to do the mathematics based upon close rate that we need X number of leads to get Y closes per month, right? We have high months, low months, so it's just not predictable, which is why I say moderately.
That makes perfect sense. We talk a lot about, and it sounds like that's something you're working through right now, is the predictability and the consistency when it comes to it's like a faucet. You turn it on, you get more, you turn it off, you get less, depending on how busy you are at that time. Now,
Correct.
once a lead does come in, what does that sales process look like?
I'd love to tell you it's varied because it is, but that doesn't give you much of an answer. And listen, I'll be honest with you, is some people, experts, have suggested that for our sales process to go from whatever the interest is, whether it's an inbound interest or we've reached out and you show an interest, we go from that stage to a call.
Yep.
Now, to be completely candid, some people say there needs to be something in the middle, and I don't disagree. I just don't know what's in the middle yet. So we go from interest is peaked and acceptance of we should talk has been accepted, agreed upon. We go to a call. For me personally, I found a 45-minute call as Goldilocks. The only caveat to that is sometimes we really do need a 20 or 25, maybe a 30-minute intro call, which
Yes.
maybe we're not even talking about the business at hand, but we are leaning to know, like, trust.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times people say, how do you go about choosing a coach? And what I always say is you got to like the person
Yeah.
because you're bringing them into your world and they have to be credible in your eyes.
Mm,
Now, credibility in your eyes might be different than mine. So what's your checklist? Is it credentials? Is it background? Is it stage of life? Is it fill in the blank? And so sometimes it's the 20, 25, 30-minute intro call. Most certainly it's a 45-minute deeper dive into what do you want to accomplish? Are we even a fit for each other? Can I even help solve your problem, so to speak? Do I understand your problem? So that 45-minute discovery call is really that deeper dive. And then from there, but also going back to the 45-minute call, what I always say to people is we're in no rush. So if we get to the end of this call and we need more time, we schedule more time. We charge $15,000 as our opening package, which depending on someone's income or revenue might or might not be a lot of money.
yeah.
And some people don't spend $15,000 on a 45-minute call. Okay. So when I said I want to tell you it's varied, but
Yeah.
that
No.
wasn't much of an answer, it really varies.
That makes sense, but I appreciate you breaking down the steps because that's fairly standard from what we see, where you have the discovery call and then you have the longer call as well. Now, just one tip that we found to be successful when it comes to what do you send in the middle, we find some sort of content that they can consume around high level what your business does. And there's this Google study that came out not too long ago. Actually, I think it was a pretty decent while ago, but it basically said on average to take somebody who's cold, knows nothing about you, to paying you thousands of dollars, on average is about 7 hours of content. That's where it doesn't necessarily need to be seven. It can be 30 minutes. It can, but on average, that's what it is. That's why having some sort of pre-nurture sequence, some even just YouTube content that they can consume to give them the opportunity to do that. We found that to be very useful. When you think of your vision and where you want to take the company, let's say over the next 12 months, What are the revenue targets, the performance targets, or just goals in general that you're striving towards?
By the way, thank you for that little tidbit on the pre-nurture, because my brain is spinning already on some good stuff. So thank you. That planted a seed. All right. So you asked about goals. My partner, Rachel, joined about 12 months ago.
Okay.
And quite frankly, she's my girlfriend, my life partner. So
Okay.
life and work is now combined. Prior to her joining the Canthal Group, she had her own company. I had my company. So we had two streams of revenue. Now we have one. And to be completely frank, we've not doubled revenue yet to where we're living the lifestyle we were prior to her closing her business. So within 12 months, man, if we were doubling the Canthal Group's current revenue, or at least closer to what we were earning when we both had two different companies, that would be like pie in the sky in terms of a minimum within 12 months.
Yeah.
If I'm being a little more, I don't know what the word is, but we've put in some strategies that I hope gets us to more predictable leads and clients, et cetera. So in 12 months, if we understand that faucet and how to keep it on, that would be great success.
Yep.
To be completely honest, our foray into the PE-backed world is newer for us as a firm. In
Yeah.
12 months, if we had some footing in that industry, great success. So I would say the revenue piece, because Rachel and I are under the same umbrella,
Yep.
predictability on leads, some of these strategies panning out, and having more footing in the PE-backed world, man, that'd be great success in 12 months.
I love that. Speak it into existence, baby.
Yeah, man.
Oh. If you were talking to new entrepreneurs that are starting off in 2025, and you could give them a piece of advice around getting their consulting firm off the ground and really finding success with getting their first couple of clients, what would that be?
All right. So true to my form, I've got multiple answers.
Okay, go for it.
All right. So the first is lean into your network hard.
Mm.
Your network is who do you know personally and professionally? Who are the people that you can reach out to and simply ask for help? Now, that help varies, right? But I have seen a lot of newer entrepreneurs think they need a business plan and a website and a niche and all these things. And then they're not wrong, but who knows, likes, and trusts you? Your network. Lean in there. Two, entrepreneurship is going to shine a light on your weaknesses. Don't shy away from them. Don't expect them to be strengths, but figure out how you can shore them up in the short term. But in the long term, who is going to be that person to do that specialty? The first one for me was an accountant. The second one for me was marketing. Two weaknesses of mine. I flubbed through it until I didn't have to. So that was two. Three, be clear on what you want to do or what you deliver. It doesn't need to be in story brand if that's your thing. It doesn't need to be the most articulate story of all time. But if you're everything to everyone, and I've fallen into this trap myself, nobody knows how to help you.
100%.
So, I grew up in I was born in 1975. I grew up in 80s, 90s rap. De La Soul had a song, three is the magic number. Three is the magic number. If you're telling someone what you don't tell them more than three things.
I love that. And for the people that are listening to this that are interested in working with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
I have a pretty cool fact about me, which is I'm the only Darren Kanthal on LinkedIn.
Boom. Yo, you're in a rare camp. That's for sure.
I know it. I know it. So that's the easiest, fastest, quickest. Our website's also wonderful, which I hope you'll put into the show notes.
Yep.
Those are the two best ways.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll tag you on LinkedIn once we post it there as well. Are there any final words you want to leave us off with before we wrap up?
Bless you. There is fear throughout everybody's decision-making process of staying in a corporate job, leaving it, going into entrepreneurship, et cetera. I think it was, I'm forgetting his name, so I won't waste time. It showed this meme. It said, I want to do something, but I'm scared. And then the next step is do something scared, which I thought was cool. I think I said that. The other thing I want to say is if you're considering being an entrepreneur and you have some sort of anchor or crutch, i.e. a corporate job, recognize that is always going to be the crutch until you let it go. The fear of letting go of a corporate job, which is the paycheck and the insurance and the security, can keep you safe and hold you back all in the same breath. So be clear with yourself. Do you want to be an entrepreneur or do you want to be a corporate employee? Because sometimes it's really hard to do them both.
Yeah, I love that so much. You remind me of one of my favorite quotes by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says, "Do the thing and you will have the power."
Cool.
So instead of waiting for the courage, you do whatever the thing that scares you is, and by the process of doing it will give you the courage. And yeah, I love that. Darren, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Ammar. This is great, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime. So that wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to reach out to Darren Kanthal on LinkedIn. You'll see his name. It'll be very easy to find. And don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you're a business owner and you're looking to scale your business and really enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.